My wife's been having an affair. It's completely crushed me when I found out, but there's more to the story. There's a secret, and you will not believe it. First of all, I want to say that I should have asked more questions before I got married to my wife. Her family has so much drama and secrets. When I got married to her, her mother was still alive. She was a rich old lady who had a young husband just 12 years older than me. When she passed away, she left her wealth to Josh, who I felt was just with her for the money. But my wife adored him, so I never said anything about him. My wife was from a rich family, and while mine was not so well off, I had acquired all of what I had with my own money. I got married to her several years before her mother passed. My wife Taylor, 40 female, has 2 siblings, an older brother Chris, and the younger brother Joey, whom I was told was adopted when her mother could not give birth. Josh is now 56 years old, but still looks pretty young. My mother-in-law was in her 70s when she passed. She passed away 2 years ago due to health complications. At the division of the estate, we were all surprised to find out that she had left the entire estate to her husband Josh. I did not really care too much about the will, but my wife was beyond furious and talked about Josh owing her. When I asked her more about it, she refused to talk. I thought that it was just some family things that were none of my business. Her brother was also very upset that everything had gone to their stepfather, but Josh said that they were his kids as well and he would still take care of them. I work at an advertising agency, and one day, Josh called me because he needed some help managing a business of his. I was good with all aspects of business, so I agreed immediately to help him out. My wife was not so happy when she found out about that, because she seemed to have developed a disliking for Josh. She would get upset when I spent time with him and asked me a million questions. There was also a weird arrangement they had where her brother stayed with us most of the times. We do not have a child of her own, and she said that she was lonely and wanted to be around her little brother. Joey would be at our house most days, and I became close with him. He was just like a little brother to me. But the way that she cared for him was much more than his own mother had when she was alive. Another thing to note is that her brother had been pressuring her to tell Joey that he was adopted before he found out about it. She and her stepfather refused and said the child was part of the family and did not need to know that. When I married her, I thought that the boy was her mother's son with the stepdad because he looked a lot like him. But my wife filled me in on the adoption. These hints brought some suspicion into my mind because Josh talked about showing his son the ropes of the business, while he had 2 other kids. One day, I was at his house helping him with some paperwork and strategies, when he had to attend an emergency meeting. It was not rare, and sometimes I would work at his house until he came back. I was in his studio office when I could find a file that I needed. I texted him but did not get a reply back, so I started going through his files until, well, one of them caught my eye. It was in a blank envelope that was not written confidential, which is why I opened it. It was his will, and it was very recent from what I could see. I know, I should not have looked through it, but curiosity killed the cat. I looked through his beneficiaries, and there were a few family members being given stuff like furniture, etc. But guess who's the sole inheritor of all the stuff? His youngest son, who was not related to him. It was weird for me that he would only put one of his kids in a will. He was pretty much like a dad to the other 2, and they always spoke highly of him. The whole thing felt fishy, and I don't know. I decided that I needed to get to the bottom of it. Maybe the boy was a relative of his and he was trying to get the money to his family after he died. It did not make any sense to me because my wife's oldest brother was being trained to run their business when my father-in-law retired, which I don't think was too far off. I felt like it was something my wife needed to see, so that she would be prepared ahead of time. We did not hide everything from each other, no matter what it was. I took a pic to show her later on. When I showed her, she had a different reaction than I thought. She said that she did not care who got the property and her brother deserved it. I knew she adored the child, but why was she okay with this? She had been more upset when her stepdad inherited everything. There was something that she and my stepdad were hiding from me, and I was not going to stop until I got to the bottom of it. I brought up the idea that Joey was his biological son or brother, but she told me that I was being ridiculous because her stepdad could not have children. You see, her defensiveness and her obvious lie that her stepdad was infertile when he in fact said several times that his wife was the one with the problem made me think there was something fishy going on. So I did what any normal person would do. Okay, maybe not a normal person, but I suspect foul play and I want to protect my wife. I could not just ask him about it because there was a chance he was going to lie to me. The next day, I collected a sample of his DNA without his knowledge by stealing a cup that he drank from. I also got Joey's DNA sample as well and submitted them for testing at a lab. In the meantime, I did some digging and paid attention to everyone at the table when we had dinner together as a family. My stepdad had more interactions with my wife and Joey than with any other of the members of the family who were there. I also caught them shouting at each other in the hallway, but they pretend as if they got along. One night, I got so close to checking her phone after she woke up to a call in the middle of the night. She left the bed to take the call thinking I was asleep. My thoughts were that she had dirt on him and he was blackmailing her, but once I got the test results, I would expose him to the whole family. A few days later, I was called in to check the test results, and let me just tell you, I was not prepared to find out that he fathered the child. I thought that he had an affair with another woman. Now he was trying to leave his mistress child the inheritance that was left for my wife and her brother. I wondered if my mother-in-law knew before she passed away while leaving everything to him. I took the results and decided to show them to the whole family. I felt it would be best, and it's a good way to get the full truth without anyone acting up. Along with my wife, Joey, and Chris, I called their grandmother, uncle, and aunt as well. Then I showed all of them the test results and told them what I've seen. As soon as she saw the results, Taylor started crying uncontrollably and told me to forgive her. I asked what the problem was since she was not the one who kept such a terrible secret from the family. But that's the thing. She was involved in this in a way I did not ever half expect. She asked me to pull her aside so she could tell me in private. I saw my stepfather's facial expression when we left, and it was a mixture of disbelief and anger. She took me into another room and made me take a seat. I sat in shock as she told me a story so sick and twisted that I would never look at her any other way. She told me that when my father-in-law got married to my late mother-in-law, my mother-in-law could not have children anymore, but Josh secretly wanted them, which was something he confided in my wife. She was charmed by his looks when he seduced her, and they began having an affair behind her mother's back. She's gotten pregnant and did not want to keep the evidence of her betrayal, but Josh insisted that they keep the child and raise it as her sibling. He paid for her to stay somewhere else until she gave birth, then they, quote, adopted her child and her mother did not know. She told me that Josh did it only because he wanted an heir, but I asked her the most important question, whether the affair had ended. She told me that it had and she loved only me, even though there was a bit of hesitation there. The whole thing was sick and twisted, but I blamed him for taking advantage of her emotions when she was so young. He should have known better than to betray his whole family like this. Worst of all, he planned to screw everyone over with his new will. I told my wife I could deal with her later, but I was so angry at Josh and wanted to teach him a lesson. As soon as I saw him in the living room where everyone was arguing, I'm sorry, I threw a punch at him. Chris tried to pull me aside, but I was so angry that I yelled I wanted to kill him for sleeping with my wife. Hell unleashed when I said that, and my wife came in to try to stop the fighting. I told her that she was forced into the whole thing to make a baby for him, so she had better stay out of it. Josh, on the other hand, laughed and said that it was very much consensual, and they had not stopped. That was enough to make me lose all control, and I wanted to end him right then and there. But everyone seemed to restrain me. My wife could not look me in the eyes after she had lied to me a second time. Our relationship would never be the same again. My father-in-law explained that he just wanted a son of his own, and since his wife could not give him one, he ended up having an affair with my wife. Grandmother did not hold back on insulting him, calling him names that would make a sailor blush, and I loved watching him squirm. Neither uncle nor aunt was impressed, and they were interested in knowing why he put his son on the will when he had other kids. He was ashamed, but tried to blame me for snooping around, but they were not having it. We've been so focused on fighting that we did not realize that Joey was not present in the room anymore. I felt awful that I have been so focused on exposing the secret that I had not noticed that he was also at the table with us. We forgot our differences for a moment and started looking for Joey. The poor little guy must have been crushed when he found out his messy history, that his sister was his mother. We managed to find him at a park he loved to go to. Watching how Taylor acted towards me showed the signs that he's been there all along. But I've just been too blind to see them. After finding Joey, everyone went home, but there was going to be another family meeting later on. As soon as we got home, I asked Taylor what Josh meant when he said the affair had not ended. I wanted to know that it had not continued after I met her and got married. She told me that she slept with him a few times, but she did not want to hurt me. What they did was as good as incest to me. After all, he was a stepfather, and his duty was to protect her and not take advantage of her. Her mother did not even know that such a disgusting thing was happening under her roof, and that was the sad part. I did not want to talk to her anymore after the confession, so I took the couch for the night. The next day, there was a family meeting, which I tried to get out of attending. But the elders of the family said that I had to be there because I was part of the family. I did not think I wanted to be part of the family anymore after what happened. My father-in-law apologized to everyone in the family for what he had put them through, especially Chris, who had no idea that he was not going to inherit anything. Grandmother accepted the apology, but they demanded that he should share the entire estate equally between his 3 children. I did not think Taylor deserved anything, but I kept my mouth shut, since I was just a son-in-law. Josh did not look like he wanted to, but they had backed him into a corner, so he agreed that the estate would be shared between the 3 of them equally. While that issue was resolved, my marriage was in shambles, and I did not know what to do. Every time she looked at me or even spoke to me, I felt my heart break once again. I did not like seeing Josh look at her. I wondered if it would happen again. She begged for forgiveness day and night, but I needed some space from her, so I moved out of the house for a while. Maybe, just maybe, if I had just ended with the Joey being born, I would have forgiven it. But the fact that it happened again several times made me believe that she was the person I could trust the least. I decided that the only way I was going to heal from the betrayal was if we were never together again. If we did not have trust, then we did not have anything. She tried all she could to get me back, even offered to get Josh to put me in the will, but that was the worst suggestion she ever made, and it pushed me away further. I filed for divorce a few weeks after we split. It was not easy on her during the case, as some of that pain will never decease. The family members tried their hardest to convince me to stay, but I could no longer stay with a family full of liars. Who knew just how many more skeletons were waiting to come out of the closet? I could not go into too much detail, but her family has a lot of secrets and rumors about them, and I realized that it was time for me to step up to the soap opera and focus on myself. The divorce went well, even though she tried to stall the dates and just beg me to come back. I did not have to pay anything to her in the settlement, but she had to pay me instead. I took the money and left the town where we lived, blocked the whole family on social, and got myself a new job and a new career. I'm now starting afresh and coming to terms with my past. And I hope that crazy family will leave me alone and never find me. Also, the idea of marriage scares me. Makes me think that if you cannot even trust your spouse, then who can you trust in this world? This story was a wild roller coaster. I'm just glad how it ended though. OP was able to get a divorce, move away from all that toxic nonsense, and start a new life for himself far, far away after blocking all information from them. Let me know what you guys thought of this story in the comment section down below. Our final story on the day is titled, Adoptive Parents Stole Me from My Bio Dad. This is another wild bio dad story. I can't wait for this one. Let's check it out. Before I get into it, I just want to give a bit of a backstory. I was adopted as a baby by my adoptive parents and raised believing that my bio dad abandoned me when he found out my bio mom was pregnant, and that my bio mom gave me up because she was too young for a baby. I had a hard childhood, as my parents never wanted to discuss my adoption, and would get very uncomfortable if I brought it up, and sometimes very angry and start shouting if I talked about it. Finding out more about my biological family would always say things like this: "Aren't we enough? They abandoned you, we raised you." My adoptive dad also struggled with anger issues and would yell at me a lot, so we have a strained relationship, but he tries to stay close. My adoptive mom is always calling me and wanting to stay in my life as well. They're nice, but can be angry and guilt trip me a lot into doing what they want. Now, when I was 18, I decided I wanted to find out more about my bio family. I searched for them using some documents I found, plus the help of my aunt. I did find my bio dad, which confused me, as they said he abandoned me and wanted nothing to do with me. I told my parents and they screamed at me, and scared me so much and told me that my bio mom put whatever name she could think of on my birth certificate, and that he did abandon me and that I was horrible for doing this behind their back, and that they should be enough. They made me promise never to reach out and that he wasn't even my bio dad. I did what they said and did not contact him as I believed them. Well, when I was 20, I decided to look him up again and found his Facebook, and saw that he posted birthday posts on my birthday wishing his daughter a happy birthday, and a few other posts about birth parents. This felt like enough information, plus his pictures, that it was him, so I reached out. He was overjoyed and very excited and emotional to talk. After texting back and forth with him, squirting questions about the adoption, we decided to meet in person, as he did not live that far away. When we met up, it was very emotional and we talked for hours. He eventually told me that he wasn't told he had a child, that he found out that he did after the adoption. He petitioned for a paternity test and it was positive, but they did not give him custody as I was 13 months old at this point. He was heartbroken and tried to set up visitation, but my adoptive parents denied him and that was that. I felt so betrayed and disgusted with my adoptive parents and feel like they kept me from my bio dad. I don't even know how to move this past. I also found out who my bio mom is, but she passed away a few years ago due to suicide. My bio dad said that she was forced into adoption by her parents and that she would have loved to meet me. I've been so upset and heartbroken ever since finding all this out. I decided to confront my parents with this information. They at first denied it and told me he just wants money. He never even asked and all he wants is a relationship. But eventually my mom broke down and said that they raised me first and they wanted a baby for so long after dealing with infertility, and that's why they did not want to lose me. They also aren't supportive of the relationship with my bio dad. I'm unsure how to move forward. I've met my bio dad's wife and their 2 kids, 13 male and 10 male, who have embraced me into their family and are both lovely people. My adoptive parents are constantly calling and leaving either rude messages or guilting me and making me feel bad for doing this. I don't know what to do. I can't get over all these feelings of being taken and kidnapped and denied a relationship with my bio dad. My extended adoptive family have reached out to me to call me names and tell me what a horrible person I am as well. I want to read a comment that I found from the original thread about this. It said, "You should speak to a counselor who specializes in adoption. There are many feelings that unless you've been adopted or dealt with it a lot, that you just can't understand. Your adoptive parents are really crappy for trying to deny you a relationship with your bio dad. He clearly wanted you to be in his life, and they thwarted that. They also are really shitty for lying to you for decades just because they wanted a child. You have every right to seek your birth parents out. They should fully support you in having both adoptive and biological parents." Guys, I agree with that comment, but drop your thoughts down below. Remember, the best way to support the channel is super simple. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and press this like button, should be right about here. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope to see you tomorrow, and I'll see you then.